Thank you so much, Rihanna, for sharing your wisdom with our listeners.
Thank you, Kara. I appreciate you having me on the show, and it's nice to be here with everyone. Thank you.
It's guys, you are in for a treat because we have heard over and over again about childhood trauma. And if you're at all like me, or at least the old me, if you're at all like me, you're like, leave that back there. Why is that a bad idea?
Okay, it's really important you move forward. Um, I hate to say it, but shit happens to everyone, right? So, what do you do with it when it comes? And when I teach Mindset for Success, which is a trademark system that I developed many years ago, I've been teaching over 40 years. And it is what you decide to do with what happens to come to you. And research shows 8 out of 10 people have 8 out of 10 negative thoughts. So instead, we do mindset work, which is conscious awareness work, to change how you're feeling or thinking about something. So here's one exercise that my clients learn. Like before you make a decision, before you speak, act, text, write, go through these 5 things. 1, does it serve you, the person? 2, is it good for you and the one that you love, your partner? 3, is it good for you and your children or extended family? 4, is it good for your job, your community reputation? And 5, if in doubt, go without. Saying it, doing it, texting it, writing it. So sometimes people act so impulsively that they end up hurting themselves and others. So spiritually, which is again a big part of healing and moving forward, having a sense of spirituality, this is what my clients do to slow themselves down and ask, is this a good move? So many people hurt each other by nasty texts and then later say, oh, maybe I shouldn't have sent that. Well, think on it. Slow yourself down. So now we're talking about the brain. How do you slow yourself down? How do you slow down the anxiety and stop the depression? Okay, so meditation, 15 minutes a day, every day. And what our people do is a system I call divine spiritual meditation. So it's an exercise I do for 15 minutes a day, but it shows in research, science, and quantum physics that meditation for 15 minutes is all you need every day, lessens anxiety, depression, lowers blood pressure, the fight, flight, or freeze response if you're nervous about something, and increases focus, dopamine, and serotonin levels of your brain, which are your high and happy chemicals. So there's so many things you can do holistically to feel your best, mind, body, and spirit. And that's what I do as a therapist and a coach for my people around the world. As a coach, I can work globally. As a therapist, I'm limited to Florida as of now. But they all learn to this system of thinking more consciously and differently than just going by the seat of their pants, so to speak. Yeah.
And we're such a knee jerk reaction society and we want it now. What you're talking about, it's not instant.
No, but you are making so much sounder decisions and you're so much calmer. In our system also with communication, there's never a reason to yell at your partner. Never, unless they're in harm's way. Like if you're going to get hit by a bus, it's like, watch out. But other than that, no, there's so many different communication rules that you can use to talk someone in an empowered way. I hear a lot of coaches talk about, well, to find love, be vulnerable. I do not teach that whatsoever. I teach be empowered to speak what's really going on in your mind and your feelings. That doesn't mean shove it down someone's throat. That means in a kind and loving way, share what you're thinking, share what you're feeling, right? And you don't have to keep rehashing your past. Your past is behind you. We teach live in the now, create today to be the best day yet. And then you're moving forward and it's like, wow, all these wonderful things have happened one day at a time. So learning great communication skills, speaking with an empowered way. So many, especially women, grow up, and this is part of childhood trauma, that if they speak up to mom or dad, and let's say dad is very strict and mom is docile, like she's afraid of dad too, Mom's not speaking up for you, so the child often speaks up. And then what happens? You get punished, you get grounded for 3 months. So the child's brain says, well, if I speak up, I'm in trouble. So I'm just going to shut down and be quiet so he doesn't yell at me. Well, this is what a lot of women do with men in their life. And they haven't found their empowered voice. And it's really important that you do, and that you speak with confidence but love, and you work as a team with your partner so that you are then making decisions together. Like right before we signed on, Karen and I were talking about redoing the new house my fiance and I just bought, and he's out of town on an international business trip. And I've got roofers here, I've got plumbers here, I've got painters here, and I am working as a team for us to create the vision of our future. And he's doing what he needs to do work wise, and I'm doing what I need to do work wise. But you're always working as a team. What is best for the team? And when you have this kind of approach with your partner, this is what helps sustain relationships over time.
So let's back up just a little bit. Um, if you if you're not used to speaking up for yourself, how many women do you feel are not speaking up for themselves in their marital or their spousal relationships? Those are the same thing. Um, how many women aren't even aware that they are shutting down?
I think really when they stop and think about it, they're aware. They just keep it to themselves. They want to keep peace in the family. They don't want to break up their family, so they just deal with it. And yet, over the years, what happens? You become disconnected, upset, not respected, and then you're not feeling close and intimate. So therefore, you don't want to have sex anymore. Now he's upset that you don't want to have sex. He has no idea why. Well, all these little small resentments keep building up to the point where you don't feel safe anymore and you shut down. And that feeling comes actually from cave woman days, where old brain, in the back of us, we need to feel safe. If we don't feel safe, we don't love that person. So if we have someone yelling at us, or we're not heard, or we're not respected, or they make decisions without us, then we're shutting down. We're like pulling away. The physical act of making love is you're opening up to someone. So you have to feel very safe. That's cave woman brain. And we are the producers of the child. So if we don't feel safe, we don't love. Okay. Men's caveman brain is hardwired for attraction, right? Why? Because they procreate the race. So some women say, oh, why is he so hell bent that I'm dressed nice and I do my hair and I do my makeup? Because he's hardwired for that. And women have to understand that. And men have to understand, for women, you better make her feel safe. So when I work with a couple, I work with singles and couples and people coming out of divorce, straight and LGBTQ clients from 16 to 80. Okay, so what is it that they're feeling? Are they anxious? Do they have depression? What is it that we're dealing with within the coupled relationship? And then I look at partners A's childhood patterns, which we call childhood traumas that might have occurred. And there's 10 of them. There's more than 10. But I created the childhood trauma checklist in 2012, a very simple tool that people can get right on my website, that says, oh, okay, I have 6 out of the 10 traumas. So how is that impacting me? And then when you know what that is, then we can change it. So my quote is, you can't change what you don't know or understand. So you have to understand, what are the top 10 traumas? How are they impacting you and your behavioral norms? So let's say that the young child felt safe shutting down. Now her norm is with her husband, if he's upset, I'm just going to get quiet, because that's what she learned to do. This is normal, but it's not normal. And it's going to hurt you in the long run. So we break all those patterns that don't serve you and then teach you empowered communication, both parties, if there's 2 of them. And it's amazing. I have 2 couples now I'm working with at the same point, and it's amazing. There's we're closer than we've ever been. One couple's together 10 years. We're finally talking open and honestly. We're saying what's ever on our mind, and we both are feeling safe about that. And then we're working to find solutions to those problems. So when you have this type of communication style, it's so much easier to feel loved and a team.
Okay, so when a woman is shutting down like that, she feels like she's doing it to save the marriage and save the relationship. However, what she's actually doing to her husband is,
If she's shutting down,
yeah, and not
yeah.
telling the truth.
She's keeping the peace for the meanwhile, letting him have his way, while she is getting more and more distant from him. So, for that momentary peace, you're setting yourself up for some heartache. You know, when you're more direct and say what's going on and on your mind, let's say the guy says, "What's the matter?" And she says, "Nothing." That is such a typical pattern. Nothing. And he knows there's something, and you know it's something. But sometimes, and if a woman asks the man the same question, sometimes we don't know at that exact minute why we're upset. So instead, you say, I don't know. I'm just feeling a little off about things. And when I've got it, I'm going to tell you what's going on for me. That's totally different. He can be patient with that answer versus nothing. Now he's upset thinking, what did I do wrong? She's mad at me. How long is she going to be mad at me? It's the weekend. We're going to have a lousy weekend because she's upset. And everybody's guessing, you know. That's one thing Chris says about me. He goes, "Hun, you're so direct. I never have to guess what's on your mind. I love it, you know." And this is how the men are feeling now that I work with. Like, I love to know what's going on for her because either the men can help or support her because sometimes she doesn't want him to fix anything. And the question the man now asks is, "Hun, how can I support you with this?" Or, "Would you like my opinion of what I would do if this was happening to me at work?" Right? So there's different ways to communicate that take all that tension out of the air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned childhood trauma quite a lot here. Why is it so important, and how do you fix it?
Okay. Would you like to know what the top 10 traumas are?
I would love to know what the top 10
Okay.
traumas are.
All right. So as I'm doing this, Kara, and listeners, if you have paper and pen, write down if you feel you've experienced any of these. I go through the list pretty quick. So if you're driving and you miss it, like I said, this is free on my website under quizzes at rianamilne.com. Okay. So first thing I want to preface is childhood trauma goes through at least 3 generations. And everyone in 2021, the most recent research shows everybody's got something on this list. So most people will say, well, I didn't go through trauma. Really, my normalhood was pretty normal, the childhood, but no, there's something on there. So we have to dig a little deeper, and it may not come to you for the 2 or 3 days, what one of these are. And 3, childhood trauma is not our fault. So it's not about blaming mom and dad at this point because they had their own traumas to deal with. Okay. Part of coaching is understand what did your parents go through. And because of that, maybe that's how they treated you because they didn't know better. Right. So there's this whole forgiveness, understanding of the family system. Okay. All right. And it's not our fault either because we're just a product of our environment. But the cool thing is we can completely change these patterns and get rid of them, which is awesome. Okay, so trauma number 1 is if there is addiction in the family. Now, I'm also a drug and alcohol addictions counselor, so I don't just say drugs and alcohol, but that's 1 and 2. Sex, if your parent was a cheater and you knew it. Porn use, gambling, hoarding, spending, eating, gaming, TV watching, workaholism, social media addiction. So if any of those take precedence over time with your child, that could be an addiction where the child feels left out. Okay, number 2 is verbal messaging. How does your parents work through a problem? If they were yellers, then you are prone to yell at your partner. Or the opposite, you're prone to shut down. Okay, it's one or the other because you were afraid as a child. And did you hear the words, I love you, I'm proud of you, great job, kiddo. It's okay, you didn't win. I know you're out there trying your best. Positive messaging or negative messaging. So that one is really important around self-esteem and self-love. Okay, number 3 is emotional abuse or neglect. Number 4 is any physical abuse, rape, or molestation. Now, again, these are not only within the family, this is in the community, on a sports team, at school, any of these childhood experiences. Okay. So you could have a perfect home life, but at school you were bullied every day or beat up. Okay. All right. The next one is around abandonment. And I named two types, fault and no fault abandonment. So a no fault abandonment is if your parent happened to die early, if they were deployed for war because they're in the military. And believe me, working in the schools as a trauma counselor, my kids just totally like were checked out because of the trauma of, will my mom come home from war? That like questioning. And then they're like, oh, I think she has ADHD. It's like, no, I think she's in the midst of trauma because she sees pictures of war every night on the TV and she knows her mom is there. Therefore, the cortisol is up. If cortisol is up, learning and memory is down. So I was doing like the woo-woo counselor where I had kids meditate in my office to calm all this down, and their grades would go up. And they weren't so hostile at recess, and they were doing better with other people. So, all this is so interrelated. Cognitive learning for kids that are anxious coming from a traumatic home is down because they're coming in with all these problems and stress. Okay, so that's that one. A fault abandonment is never knowing your child, being together, and then leaving the family with a breakup or a divorce, and then you barely see the child or you're breaking promises to the child. And the last one is you may be in the home, but you're not actively engaged. You don't go to the sport events, the plays, the dance recitals. You just go from work, eat, to the home office, and you're barely engaged. Okay? That's a fault abandonment. Okay, the next one is if you were adopted, part of the foster care system, or had to go live in another home. Even if it was aunt or uncle's or grandma's home, you're still displaced from mom and dad. Okay, the next one is personal trauma. This is trauma 7. And most people can relate to something here. So were you ever bullied? Were you a chubby, overweight child or skinny and nerdy and called that? I was called the nerd, so that's why I use that example. Were you identified ADHD and had to be pulled out for special classes and felt different? Were you the only African American in all Caucasian school or of another race or ethnic background? Where you just felt different, you didn't fit in. That is really hard on the psyche where, you didn't feel like you were good enough. That's where that feeling comes from under personal trauma. Trauma number 8 is sibling trauma. Several under here. Was your sibling born with a physical disability that they needed more of mom's and dad's time? Or are they the troublemaker in the family that they're always focused on his issues? Okay. Second, are they the family hero? The better student, the star athlete, more handsome, more beautiful, and you felt like a little left out? Or did your sibling bully you? So there's 3 scenarios there. The next one is number 9, 2 parts here. It used to be number 11. I had to bring it down. When I made this list, community trauma was not a big deal. Now it's the number 1 trauma due to COVID. Are floods, fires, hurricanes, wiping out mass communities, and unfortunately our school and community shootings. So all this is community trauma. Even politics today is community trauma. Okay, so it's all around us, making people very hyper anxious. Okay, so that's a big one today. And that impacts the family. So during COVID, for example, where you're laid off or you couldn't work and you had to stay home from school. So that's impacting the family. Did you grow up in a dangerous neighborhood? Did you grow up with lack messages? We don't have money for the gas bill. We don't have money for food. I can't afford these bills. These are lack messages that hurt every entrepreneur. If they can't get that out of their brain, they're going to be afraid to invest in themselves in coaching or no, like what if it doesn't work for me? That's that mindset that holds people back from growth. Okay. Our military people here in the U.S. move every 2 to 4 years. And if that's the case, they're always the new kid in school, but it's a family issue, moving all the time. So there's many of them if a parent was incarcerated. So there's many of them under family. Then the next one, trauma 10, and there are more, but these are the top 10 that in my 25 years of being a therapist, this is how I put my list together. The last one is mental health issues in mom and dad. Now, I'm part of the baby boomers. Our parents didn't go to counseling. So if you're older, you kind of have to guess, did my mom or dad have these two things? And bipolar seems to be the big word, but very often it's a borderline personality that is the worst personality type. Simply described. When they're good, they're great. When they're bad, they're horrid, and you never know what you're going to get. You might open that front door coming home from school and they're yelling and screaming at you. It's like, why? They get mad at something nobody else would get mad about. So it's a very erratic person to try to navigate. Bipolar means manic depressive. So a manic phase could be a shopping spree. They buy all these things, and next month they get the bills. They're depressed for 3 months because they can't pay them. Or a gambling spree. So that's a manic phase, usually followed by the depressed stage. Okay, so depression can show up as anger, checking out, or physical exhaustion. So those are the top 10 traumas. How many think you had, Kara?
All but two.
Wow, okay. So when you have these numbers, and then if I were, diagnosing you, or I was with you in a discovery session, that's when I go through this with my people. Okay, let's say you had this one on a scale of 1 to 10. How severe was that for you? 3, like let's say someone says, well, I got hit all the time. Well, was that like a lot every day? If that's a 10. Once every 3 months, that might be a 7. So we look at the severity scale. And then from whatever you've experienced as your norms develop as a child to protect yourself the best that you can, because we can't run away and support ourselves, right? So we're stuck in this environment, so we come up with these coping mechanisms, but then they don't serve us as adults.
Right. So, just an interesting note. You said being the only black person in an all Caucasian school, I was the only white person in an all black school.
Okay, so
For
that's
the
quite
first,
different.
yeah,
Yeah,
quite different for the first 3 years of school, and 2 years before that in the neighborhood. We were the only family in the
yeah,
whole neighborhood.
so
So yeah,
that's
there,
pretty
there's
traumatic as a young
well,
person.
I didn't. It's funny. I didn't see it as traumatic because that was my reality. And you're little, and you just don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
one of the cute stories that comes from that is at one point my friends and I were talking why I didn't have the same color skin that they did. So we all decided to make me have the same color, and so we made mud and we covered me with mud. And I remember going home, and my mother's like. And picking me up and putting me in the sink and washing me off. But
yeah.
the big point though is everyone, no matter how much you think that you had this perfect childhood, there are traumas that are maybe buried that you might not know.
Very
So,
deep in your subconscious,
is
yes.
it possible for someone to heal themselves with this?
It's very intensive work. And really, it's a mental health issue. Um, I am a licensed mental health counselor, LMHC. And in order to go on to be an advanced certified clinical trauma professional, you have to have the mental health license first. So that's a triple master's in psychology. Got that. Now I'm moving forward. So the people that do work with me and invest with me know that they're getting a real expert and a pro in this topic. That's why I talk around the world about this, because it was new and cutting edge. Even in my triple masters, the word childhood trauma was not used once. So it was not even out in the year 2000. It wasn't known. And instead, it's like you have anxiety, take a pill. You have depression, here's this pill. And the answer is not in a pill. That's like a Band-Aid. The answer is let's clean up what happened in the past that is causing your anxiety and depression today. And when we clean all that up, it's like you're very rarely depressed or anxious. And if you are, you know what to do holistically to put that down if you're triggered by something.
So step one for someone who's listening, who's scared to pick up the phone and call you. Yeah, I'm sure you have an exploration call or discovery call. What do you call that
It's
call?
called a discovery session. We do it online. So around the world, I can do that. And it's on a super special on my website. Really, there's 5 pages they fill out, really simple, yes, no, check marks. And then from there, I know the questions to ask them. And then we go deeper. And by the end of it, they understand, oh, that's why I do this, or this is why I'm yelling, when my partner upsets me, or this is why I'm afraid to talk to him because my dad, would yell at me and I just got so scared. I just got quiet. So we recognize the patterns, and I'm so easy to work with. Like I'm pretty good natured, I'm laughing a lot and really enjoy life. So most people aren't afraid to talk to me, and I email them right back directly. It's not like you have to go for 10 people to work with me. It's like, just email me, Riana Milne at Gmail, and I answer you, So I'm global, but I'm hometown. That's the way I describe myself, as if, I would see you right down the street. So I'm very easy to work with. I always have been. I've been doing it a long time. So the discovery session is the first way so that I know how to help you best. I really couldn't be your coach without doing my assessment profile, because I need to know how to help you. So until we do that, I wouldn't know.
Right. Okay. So someone is watching this and they have been so tempted all this time, but they're still scared and they want to know, let's say pick one of those 10, whichever one, let's say abandonment. Intentional, you said, what was the word you used? On
The
purpose.
top 10 traumas.
Hmm.
Let's say verbal messaging, trauma two, like how you were talked to when you were young.
So I come to you, and how do you fix the verbal messaging for me
Okay.
specifically?
Well, we don't just fix one, we fix all of it.
Okay, that's
All
good,
of it.
because
It's
if you just
holistic.
fix one,
Mind, what you think, body, how you feel, right? The trauma, the anxiety. So that's all body system, right? And your spirituality, your faith in yourself, your self love, your confidence, your self esteem. And if you're single, this is a big one. I work with a ton of singles in a program called Dating to Mating, which is um, it's something, if someone keeps dating a toxic person over and over and over again. We call it same person, different face. And it's called, actually in science, RRS, relationship repetition syndrome. So someone will break up with someone toxic and it's like, I swear I'll get it better this time. Read 300 self-help books and go out and pick up the same kind of person 3, 4, 5 times in a row. Why is that? Because your childhood trauma is not healed. And you are attracting by chemistry, the worst way to fall in love, the same person of the family dynamic that you know and comfortable. Why? Because your hippocampus likes to keep what it knows. It likes what is normal for you, even if it's bad. So
right?
that's why we have to break the patterns, and you have to look at dating totally differently. So for the singles, it's a full education of dating and understanding your traumas and understanding the person in front of you. So when my singles go out to date, we call it conscious dating. They know within date one or two if this person's good for them or not. There's a series of 24 questions they can ask, not like a job interview, just like casual conversation. They are listening and they are evaluating and they are watching body language. And yet they're talking just like I am, having a good old time. But they know date one or two, is this worth going on to date three? Or say, you're a great person, but I don't think we're quite a match. And that's empowered dating. Okay, so that's really exciting for singles. And then they end up with these fabulous partners, and they're like, oh my God, this was so amazing, so different than what I used to date before. And then my couples, like I said, when they're struggling, I have to do childhood trauma work for partner A, partner B, and then the relationship. What is that toxic cycle in the relationship that we have to break? So I have to help them both individually understand their trauma, understand each other's trauma, and then teach them how to recommunicate with respect. Because some people take things so personally, and it wasn't about them at all. It's something he was going through, but she heard it differently. So they need to be able to talk in a whole different way that nobody taught these communication skills before, right? So
Oh,
it's
it's
really
it's a whole new
fascinating.
world.
It's a
It
whole
really,
new world, and your life really
homeostasis.
changes, and it's so amazing because When you get this system down, everything changes. You become a better leader at work. All my people are getting raises and promotions. They're happier. Their energy is there. I have one girl now. She goes, well, I struggle with all my coworkers at a hair salon. I said, well, how was the other salon? Well, I struggled there too. And I said, and how about before that? And I said, well, there's a quote out there, wherever you go, there you are. So we have to solve that piece, and how are you showing up? Are you taking it too sensitively? Do you think if they're mean that they're taking it out on you, or they're just having a bad day and it's not about you at all? So, it's real easy to me to see it because I've been doing it so long, like I said, 25 years, this work. So we work as a team in coaching, which is very different from counseling. Counseling is you talk and talk and talk and you want to be heard. That's about it. Most counselors do not give you solutions. Coaching is very solution based. Okay, because this is happening, I want you to do this now. Or this week, here's your homework. I want you to watch this movie or read my Love Beyond Your Dreams books about toxic relationships and see what patterns you're finding in the men that you're dating. So it is a team effort to get them moving to where they want to be. And as I say, to create the life you desire and have the love you deserve. And that's our whole goal. So in every life sphere, do you want more friends? Do you want more money? I do financial education. So many women, are so scared about financial retirement. I say, okay, what have you set yourself up with so far? And I ask, do you know about dividend funds? Well, what's that? Well, that's money put in a fund, several different funds, and you get monthly checks. Wow, that would be great. I can get extra monthly income other than Social Security. Yes. How do I do that? So I teach them how to do that. So we look at everything in your life to calm all that anxiety and make you feel empowered about, I know what I want, I know where I'm going, and now I have a plan to get there. Yeah, it's very exciting.
It is. And you do need a coach, guys, because homeostasis is where we go back to that. What's what we know. It's not necessarily what's good for us, it's just what we know.
That's
And
right.
what I have noticed in my coaching is people recreate the exact same horribleness that they left everywhere they go, but they're completely oblivious to it.
Yeah, it either shows up in the same partner of the same type, or one partner in a relationship. I love research. Everything I do is research based. And the research shows that the person breaks up, gets back together, breaks up, gets back together, and averages 7 times before they finally leave and say, I can't take this anymore. 7 times. So that's a very toxic pattern. And it's not good for you, and it's holding you back your happiness in all life areas. Because if you're unhappy in your relationship, it's going to come out at work. If you're unhappy at work, it impacts your relationships, right? So we have to clean up all of it. There's another free test on my website. It's like, are you really ready for a relationship? And it asks 10 questions about where are you in your own life journey. And my people need, by the time they're done, they're 8s, 9s, and 10s, mostly 9s and 10s. Most people, when they come in, they're anywhere from 0 to about 5. So when they do that test, that's one test that shows me, okay, we're going to focus on this, focus on your finances, focus on your work on happiness. So that's why life coaching with the trauma recovery piece is so empowering, because we break the bad patterns and then give you skills to move forward in these areas that are troubling you. So if you're single, by the time you do go out to date, you're the chooser. So many women wait to be chosen. No, we know what we want. We know where we're going. And does this guy fit into my life, my friends, my hobbies? And if he doesn't, that's okay. He's just not for me. So we are the choosers. We know exactly what we want. And that's how it works.
That's awesome. Okay, so out of the 13 books that you've written, if someone, we've talked so much about childhood trauma, if someone that's their thing, what book would you recommend they read
Love
first?
Beyond Your Dreams. Break free of toxic relationships to have the love you deserve. That's my Amazon #1 bestseller. It's 400 pages. I kept writing and writing for my research, but it's a real easy read. It's as if I'm talking to you. And people have read it like in 2 nights because they can't put it down. And they're like, oh my God, I learned so much from it's like 350 research sources in that book. And it will clearly tell you what is toxic, what is not, how to recognize it if you're out there dating and you say, oh, I remember reading that pattern. Like, it's not scientific mumbo jumbo. Like, one is called a mother hater. Okay, if you're dating some guy that still hates his mom as a man, he is going to be a very difficult partner for you to have. He's going to be negative, short tempered. This is a pattern. So one of the first questions on a date would be, so tell me about your mom and dad. Are they here in Florida or do they live somewhere else? Are they still living? I mean, a baby boomer, you might ask, are they still living? And you see what they say. How do they describe it? And that's a common everyday date question. So we are asking questions, but listening for certain types of answers.
I've had this philosophy, and I would love for you to be able to say, yeah, that's absolutely right. And you might say, no, it has nothing to do with it. When choosing a mate, is it important whether or not they've had long term friendships?
Yeah, yes, because it shows the ability to negotiate through differences. I've also found very often when people don't have children, they tend to be more narcissistic and self centered. They're not used to the compromise, they're not used to the sacrifice that they have to do for the family, the partner, the child. So it's all about them. That's all they've had to worry about their whole life. So, I usually ask about the family relationships when I'm dating. You're a man. Okay, do you have children? What are your children doing today? Well, if I hear one has trouble and they're in or and out of rehab, I don't want to be the family therapist. So that's not good. That's going to be upsetting for us as a couple. If I hear she's successful, she lives over here, he's really successful, we have a great relationship, good. That's peace. That's what you're aiming for. Peace, love, good family system. If you're coming into this family, then you're going to be loved and accepted. If there's still a toxic ex hanging around, that's a red flag. Say, so how are you and your ex doing? Oh my God, she's calling me all the time, demanding this, demanding that, drops her custody hours. Now that will interfere with your life. So you have to hear these answers. Like when my daughter was dating and she wanted marriage and a family, and I helped her write her profile like I do for all my clients. I put her on Match. And I told her one of the first questions you're going to ask on the date is, are you a man that sees yourself wanting to marry and have a family one day? And if the answer is, well, if the woman I love really wants kids, yeah, I guess so. That's a no. That
That's
is
a
a
heck
no.
no.
If you have a man like my son-in-law, Charles, who said, I couldn't imagine my life not married and not having kids. I want to be a coach of their sports teams. That's something I really look forward to. That is a big yes. And that's who she married. And that's how they met. And I met my partner on Match as well. So it is all about, what are you writing on your profile? What pictures are you showing? What questions are you asking? Do you know what you want and you're not going to sacrifice or settle, right, for less? Because when you have your life together, you will not settle for less because you're already happy in your single life. You're already empowered. You're already living this amazing life that you're not going to bring someone in there that's going to bring you down.
Okay, so I don't know why this is coming back in my brain so big because we've already kind of left this topic, but it's killing me here. You said that childhood trauma goes through 3 generations. What does that
Yes,
mean?
your parents and their parents. Because you have
Okay.
to realize, okay, so let's say um, dad was really mean to you and a yeller. And then dad's dad was an alcoholic and really punishing. So he grew up in an angry home. Okay. And even the studies from the Holocaust showed the gene expression in people for survivors of that horrible experience and all that stress and trauma and high anxiety. Their lineage tends to have high anxiety. All that generation down, the gene expression actually changed. So this research is getting more and more defined. I love research and learning more. I'm always learning more, putting it out in my newsletters and, saying, hey, I just read this article, to my people. So whatever I can learn, I'm cutting edge to make sure they've got it too. Um, and it's amazing that only, okay, I've been doing 25 years. So in year 2000, I didn't even hear the term childhood trauma. Isn't that
Gosh,
crazy? Yeah.
it is. And so now that you have seen it and you have helped people work through all of it holistically, and now, okay, you go through this program. How long of a program generally does it take
Yeah,
for
it's four
someone?
to 6 months.
Okay.
If they've already done some work, I've worked with a few coaches, but they're still struggling, that could be a 4 month program. A 6 month program is, let's say, a single woman still going to divorce. The ex is very toxic. He's using the kids against her. She will need some advice for court, what she needs to prepare in her file. Um, I served on the Juvenile Justice Committee in Atlantic City area, New Jersey, so I know a lot about the court systems and what the judges are looking for in these cases. So if it's more complicated or the children are upset and acting out, because I worked in every grade levels at schools, kindergarten, all the way through college. At a high school level in Hackensack, I was a school psychologist. So at every level, I helped the kids through how the parents talk to the kids in a new way. Or if they have a 6 month program, they can bring the kids in for a session or two, and I'll get to the bottom of what's going on for them. Because if you have had a very toxic marriage, your kids have childhood trauma. My children, unfortunately, had a lot of trauma with their father. Okay, I had two love traumas before I discovered this work. And the second one, when I wrote the book and I sent him the rough draft, he goes, oh my God, I finally know what's wrong with me. Because as I said, I can't do this anymore, and I annulled the marriage. He's there, I don't know what's the matter with me. I sabotage everything I love. And I said, I'm going to find out. And by then I was a therapist, but I didn't know. I'm thinking in the DSM-4 of the psychological manual, he doesn't have anything that's in there. What is it that he has? And that's what led me to the deeper psychological research in the journals. And that's how I just termed it childhood trauma. And that's, when he had 9 and very severe traumas. Father alcoholic, docile mother, grew up poor, teased and bullied. There was a lot of high end traumas for him. And he said, I finally know what's the matter with me. I said, and guess what? You can heal all of this.
See, that's the really great news, folks, that if you're listening to this and it's overwhelming, the really great news is truly if your problems are because of your mom or your dad or your spouse or your kids or your boss or anything else, if they're really their fault, there's nothing you can do about it. And so, what Rihanna's telling us here is we have power to fix this with her help or with another coach or, however you want to do it. But
Just make sure
it
they're trauma certified,
trauma
CCTP
certified,
certified. Yeah.
trauma
Yeah. Very
certified.
important.
Oh, it's incredibly important because when you do let go, and I have been going through this personally, when you do let go, it is amazing. It is
It,
shocking. It is
it is.
stunning. It's
It's
you're
a whole new life.
wow. It is incredible. It's
Yeah.
truly incredible. So take the time, love yourself, do a discovery call for goodness sakes. Like just give it a shot. What have I not asked you that I should have asked you?
Girl, we could talk for hours on this topic.
I
Trust me.
know. I know.
Just so our listeners know, like I do have a podcast with 125 shows. It's called Lessons in Life and Love with Coach Riana Milne. It's on every podcast channel. My YouTube channel is like 350 audios and videos. And I have 4 free love tests on rianamilne.com. That's where you can also find a discovery session and 60 pages of my books, Live and Love Beyond Your Dreams. Live Beyond Your Dreams is about the mindset for success. Love Beyond Your Dreams is about healing from toxic relationships. They were written to go together. Because if you have great love, you have a great mindset. So, you have to have both to be happy in life. So that's really part of my curriculum that my clients must read those 2 books and we process them in their coaching. And you'll see a lot of the answers you're seeking in those books. So,
Okay,
yeah,
so
so help yourself to all those free resources.
Yeah, please do, guys. Please do. Your books are they're not read. They're not audio, are they?
I did one, Live Beyond Your Dreams, and in my move from New Jersey to Florida, they melted in the van.
No,
Yes, and I
no.
tried to use AI to do, some uploading of copy, and my voice was great, but it kept skipping over the sentences, so the AI was not yet developed the way I needed it to be a good quality product. For me to sit down and do a 400-page book, it's going to take a really long time.
It means you
So
have to sit down, my friend.
exactly. Yeah, that's the first part. Yeah,
Uh,
with buying a new home with my fiance, we're really busy right now. But yeah, read the books, read the highlighter because you will go back to the books. All my clients say, keep picking it up and remember, I want to reread that section. Or did that guy have this? Reading over it. It is meant for men too, even though as an author, you have to pick, am I writing towards women or men? So I write to women. But I do certainly help men as well. So any of the male listeners, yes, I coach men and women, singles, couples, straight, LGBTQ. So
and guys, if you care at all about, and you may not care enough about yourself to do this, because I've been there and you just don't. But if you care at all about the people in your family, your friends, your work, please do this for them. Please at least do the discovery call, the discovery Zoom, discovery, whatever it is, and just check it out. It certainly can't hurt. So this podcast is
especially
called.
also, Kara, if I may say it, because I'm such a child advocate, right? Because I'm a frontline person in the schools, and the school shootings have really, really escalated, and it's very frightening. If you see your kids, there's two patterns. An extrovert will lash out, run away, do drugs, alcohol in a loud way, and the introvert will do cutting, self mutilation, hide in their room all day, not want to talk to you, totally shut down. If you're seeing either of those patterns, they're very dangerous patterns. Kids prefer coaching over counseling. They don't want to go to someone's office and be looked at and judged. It's like, I hate being here. It's a negative experience. Coaching they love because it's on the computer. It can be done in their room in private or the living room, whatever. They don't have to go out of the house to go. And it's very, very empowering because they don't have to talk a lot. They're learning more skills. And as they're learning and their confidence picks up, then they are more chatty. And I have a huge success with teens who we call failure to launch. And I mean teens from 16 to 30. So if you had a college student that got their educations on the couch back at parents' house, can't find a job, depressed, getting high all day, playing video games, these are warning signs. Get your kids coaching. And the one thing that you should all know, coaching with me, due to all the licensing and certifications, 100% tax free. So guess what? That's almost like free. And you write it off on your taxes, you pay less taxes, and you help your child. So it's a win-win for everyone.
I love win-wins. So
Right?
our podcast is Think Your Way to an Epic Life. So what are some tips that you've got for our folks to help them think their way to an epic life?
Life is too short. I've lost too many very dear friends along the way, which has told me live large, say yes to life more, be more positive. There's no reason to have a negative mindset. Challenges will come, and that's okay. When you think differently, it's like what's plan A, plan B, and plan C, and you keep moving forward. It's a whole different way to live, and you will live this way the rest of your life because you will never want to go back to where you were before. So
Right on.
make today
Right
the
on.
day that you create the life you desire and have the love that you deserve because you deserve it.
Right on. Well, Coach, I appreciate you. My listeners, I can assure you, appreciate you. And guys, as always, the best way if you want to talk to either one of us is on YouTube. You can listen to this on all the different ways, but if you go to YouTube, you can leave comments, and either Rihanna or I can answer them for you, and we will. We're
We
here
will.
for you. We want people to be healthy so we can have more friends, right?
Yes. Thank you, Kara, for having me. I truly appreciate it.
It is my honor. Thank you.